Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge, here on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, founder of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. Good morning, Lee and the gang. We are live in studio, and you are right, Lee. It is a cold morning here in Wisconsin. It is the coldest so far of this winter, and it is looking like it's going to get even colder this week, so not looking forward to that. What I am looking forward to, though, is some awesome events that we got coming up here in the spring. Hopefully it's a little warmer then. We are starting off this year's conventions and tour with a trip to Obscuricon, March 21st through the 22nd in DeKalb, Illinois. Myself and a lot of other great guests are going to be there for this awesome 2-day event. It's in a cool little castle building. Definitely looking forward to that. Then we head to Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin. Myself and fellow Untold Radio host Dean Bertram will be there, as well as all kinds of other cool paranormal, Bigfoot, you name it. There's going to be all kinds of different modalities there. So awesome. Going to be a great time. And then coming up again, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Convention, Saturday, May 9th in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Over 40 vendors, Bigfoot, paranormal, UFOs, cryptids. We're bringing it all under one roof. Kicking off Friday with a kids' daylight educational Bigfoot hike with myself, Chris McCurry from the CAPS team, Lauren Smith, Night Callers Radio, and Kelly Milner-Halls, who is a children's book author, all going out on this expedition. For the braver souls, we kick off with a nighttime hike with Lauren Smith, myself, Chris, as well as Jay Bachochin, local researcher here in Wisconsin, Ken Gerhard, and Larry Eisler will be joining us. He's a little more paranormal, but he's coming out on his first Bigfoot expedition. Then, guys, June 13th, we head down to Chicago for the Chicago Paranormal Convention in Countryside, Illinois. I will be at the Rio Library and the Belleville Public Library in October. So just some stuff for you guys to keep in mind going forward if you're interested in seeing myself and members of my team in person. But guys, right now we have an awesome guest in studio. We are live, so if you have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section and we'll get to them as soon as possible. It's definitely going to be an interesting show today, so let's get to it. My guest today is Ethan Oates. He is a researcher and filmmaker currently collaborating with Ron Morehead, Darrell Denton, Martin Groves, and Mike Smith on a production called the Bigfoot Documentary Movie. His work focuses on investigating extraordinary phenomenon ranging from his sightings of giants in the Solomon Islands to accounts of interdimensional encounters. Through his upcoming documentary, Oates seeks to present his findings regarding ancient structures and cryptid activity, aiming to share documentation and unique perspective on these conventional topics with a wider audience. And today, he's here to share that with you. So please welcome to the show, Ethan Oates.
Hey, Barnaby, how are you today?
I am doing well. I have not had to step outside since the wee hours of the morning when I got done with work, so I am nice and toasty warm.
Yeah, we've been getting spoiled here in Wisconsin, man, the last couple winters, with barely any snow and all that. And then this year it's like super cold and it's like here comes that snow like left and right. It's like, oh man,
Absolutely. We have very little snow where I am, though. It's about an inch or so out there right now on the ground. So luckily not too much of that.
Nice. You whereabouts you at in Wisconsin? The lower part?
I'm Fox Valley area, Neenah, Appleton, Oshkosh, that kind of junction right there in the
I'm Moose Lake area, past Moose Lake area, and Hayward, a little past there. Mm-hmm. So, yep. Yeah, I'm up there.
Yep.
Cold.
Quite a ways. Yes, definitely a little colder up there, man. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, let's get into this because you have some very interesting stories here, very interesting encounters. Before we get into all that, let's start off at the beginning because you've had all these interesting encounters and events and stuff. Where did this all start? Where did you get interested in any of this stuff?
So I was a TV actor. I had a comedy show for about 17 years. I also been in quite a few, like 5 different horror movies, scary movies. I've been in a couple with Rob Mucus from House of a Thousand Corpse. I had so I would be a flashy kind of guy. I used to like to spend a lot of money because I made a lot of money. I was pulling in $20,000-$30,000 a month. I was always flashy. I would have to go out to Vegas all the time, walk the red carpets. So I used to go and, a buddy of mine was like, hey, you better do what you can do. You're getting older. You can go see the, world. And I'm like, I enjoy that. And I used to go to Hawaii until it caught on fire. And so I had a friend of mine that was a lady, and she has another lady friend that she's married to. They're a couple. And I've known her for, I want to say 26, 27 years. She talked me into going to Solomon Island. So she mentioned it to me and told me it's tropical and beautiful. And, I was like, okay. And so, I like stuff like that. So I went, and when we got there, we ended up landing in the city part of Solomon Island on the very end of the island. She did not want to stay there. She wanted to go somewhere more secluded where, if she wanted to go topless on the beach, she could. I'm just being straight up. That's how it was. And so she talked to a man there, and we chartered a boat. The man took us down about a quarter way of the island, and he took us to a village where we could stay. He said if we offer them a little bit of money, they would be just fantastic to us. So he took us down there. He introduced us, to a tribe, and I mean, it was fantastic. These people were they were all over you like you were a celebrity, and they had no idea who I was. And so we stayed there. We made a plan to stay there from Friday till Sunday. So Friday started off, and it was real neat. It was interesting to see what these tribal people were, doing, and I'm interesting other cultures. So I found everything they were doing real interesting, and these people got to live like this when we got microwaves and we got this and we got that, so the day went by. And as it started to get into the evening, my friend's wife went over to the wood area line to go to the bathroom. So she snuck off, went over there to go to the bathroom. We were at a camp. We had a fire going. She came back and her eyes looked really funny, like she was upset. And I kept noticing. She sat on the other side of my friend, and I kind of kept noticing she's trying to whisper in her wife's ear there, and I'm like, I'm trying to listen to what she's saying. She turns and looks at me and says, "There's a skull over there." And I said, "What?" And she said, there's skull and bones or something over there. And I looked and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "There's a skull over there." And she was starting to cry. Well, the chief of the village heard that. He overheard her and seen that she was upset. He's a very smart man, Chief Joseph, very smart man. He overheard it. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "She's seen a skull, she claims." He goes, "Oh, yeah, don't mind that. That's fine. There's all kinds of them all over." And I said, "They're all over?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, he liked me. The chief liked me because I talked a lot about United States and how our country, the bad stuff, the lies, this bad stuff, so I'm like, so we clicked. He liked me. He thought I was kind of like anti-government. And he's like, "If you do this over here, you say the certain things, you'll get killed." And I'm like, "Oh, so he really liked me." So he started to tell me that they placed these, it's a long story, so I'm going to kind of cut it in and make it shorter. He started telling me that they placed these skulls around the village because the jungle is alive and it keeps the creatures from the jungle out from coming at them. And, it helps. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So, I mean, as he's telling me this, I'm starting to think, when's the gig up? Is this part of the, us paying to stay here? You're going to creep us out, scare us, or, and at the time I had probably I want to say about a $70,000 watch on, diamond watch. I had a $20,000 necklace on, big old, Run DMC gold necklace, diamond rings. I was flashy, and I probably shouldn't have did that going to the islands. So I was kind of worried at that point that, are they setting us up to rob us? Are they, I grew up in Michigan, so I'm street smart. Because Detroit was next to us, and Detroit's got a lot of bad things going on. And so I started thinking that, and he just started running to me, telling me stuff about his past. His father was chief, his father's father was chief before, that there are these giants that walk all over Solomon Island. There's 24-foot humanoid giants. They look just like a human, a tribe, but they're tribal because they live out in the jungle, but exactly like a human. And I'm like, and everything he's telling me, I'm just taking it, in, but I'm not, I've never seen that before. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm the guy that I don't really believe anything until I see it with my own eyes. And I know, I got a lot of common sense, and it's just like, you can throw something at me and it's like, okay. But I'm like, so as the time went by, he told me that his grandfather took him and showed him when he was young these giant skulls and in like a grave site area. And I said, "Oh, really? That's interesting." He goes, "I'll take you tomorrow if you'd like me to." And I said, "Okay." You know what I mean? I thought the gig's going to be up tomorrow. So we go to spend the night, and mind me, there's peacocks on this island, and they're making all kinds of noise. And my first time, actually, we're in this little hut that is like it's like a tree, like maybe about this size of limbs, and they're tree pieces. And they made a floor, made walls, made roof out of all this. It's really neat. So, but it's thin, it's like you're in a tent almost still. So, and the sounds are just all night long. So I barely slept all night long, man. It was hard to do that. You know what I mean? Because if you go camping, let alone you're hearing noises, and then you're thinking, is that a bear? Is that this? So it was hard for me to do that. So I barely got any sleep that night. We got up in the morning time. There's a lot of in between things that I'm skipping out because there's a lot of stuff to this. So of course, we're sitting around, we're getting ready to eat in the morning. I'm watching these ladies, and they're stripping down nude, and I'm like, I'm kind of not trying to be nosy, but I'm wondering what they're doing, and they're taking this. It almost looks like ashes from a cigarette, but it's thick, and it's heavier. I felt some of it, and they're taking that and they're rubbing it on their skin, and when they do, it turns pure white, like the purest white paint you could imagine. And I said to the chief, I said, what are they doing? And he says, well, they paint themselves with that white stuff, because he said that when they go in the jungle, when they paint themselves white, it represents the skull, and it keeps the giant creatures back. And I'm like, And so I'm like, well, so then during our talk, I'm like, well, where do you guys eat mostly? And he said, out of the ocean, that they barely go into the jungle because it's so dangerous, but there is things that they do need in the jungle. And when they do, the women will paint themselves white, and they'll go into and the tribal men that go with them won't paint themselves white. They go in normal, and they do a circle around the women as they go in. So the women will be like here, and they'll come in like this and flush in, and they stay circled around the women, he said, about 50 to 60 feet because of these creatures in the forest. He said it's very dangerous out there. And I was just like, so I'm starting, I'm still hearing stuff. After last night, he told me all kinds of stuff of his heritage, of life on Salem Island. And I was like, he's already told me that these creatures come into the village, and when they come into the village to destroy the village, and they try to get the people. And I said, well, will they eat you? He said, yeah, they try to get us. And he goes, so what will I said, well, what do you do? I said, you run into the jungle, because it's all jungle around them. I mean, where are you going to go? And I said, do you run into the jungle or the ocean? He goes, no. He goes, we stand guard. We stand our guard. And he goes, we raise skulls. And I said, you raise skulls? And he said, yeah, we take a skull and we raise it above our head and we bow our head down. And he goes, it shows the giants respect, and they get back. I said, why does it do that? He said, because a lot of these creatures, we kind of nickname them as skull collectors. And I said, skull collectors? He said, yeah, they collect skulls. I said, the hairy one you're talking about that, seemed like Bigfoot, collects skulls? And he said, yes. And he said, they also go invisible. I said, well, what's the biggest one you've ever seen of that? He said, over 30 feet, but there's tribal people out here that claim that they've seen them 50 and 60 feet tall. I'm like, whoa. So, of course I'm taking this in, Barnaby, and I'm like, when's this gig up? You know what I mean? Because this is a good one. I'm thinking you try to scare us, you're going to laugh at us, all this. So, anyways, I'll take what's back to the fire. So that was, all kinds of stuff I learned prior. And so we're getting ready to go out, and all of a sudden I see these tribal guys take off into the jungle. They're looking over at me, and then they take off into the jungle. So, maybe it was my thoughts, because I was worried that, they're spotting me out and then they're going in the jungle. They're probably just looking, you know what I mean? Maybe interested in me or whatever, because, different cultures are interested in different cultures. So they take off in the jungle. We're still eating. The chief, I'm looking at the chief. He's sitting there eating, and he stops eating about 4 minutes later. And he says, you ready to go? And the first thing I thought is, why did those guys go in the jungle already? Are they are you guys gonna kill me? Or, I'm getting nervous, man. Mm-hmm. And mind me, I've took self-defense since I've been 8 years old, my mom put me in that. I you know what I mean? I did self-defense with police officers. I was in a course with them. My buddy trained them, and I was in there with that. I mean, so I'm a tough guy, but I'm a love-hearted guy, and so I still, you know, I was getting really nervous, man. So, you know, at that point, my friend's lover, her wife, is getting really scared. She's like, I'll go, but I'm not going in there. I don't want to see the bones. You know, I don't know. She's getting all worried. So I'm just like thinking, oh, you know, this is a joke anyway. So I said to the chief, why did they go in there? He says, well, those are my warriors. Those are tribal warriors. And what they're going to do is they're going to go in ahead of us. And then we're going to go in. And he said, and then we're going to have some behind us. That way we got, you know, we're okay. And I'm like, okay. So I just played it off, you know, I'm still nervous. We start walking into the woods, into the jungle. We go down this, it's like almost like a deer trail, but a little bit wider. We follow this trail probably about 35, 40 minutes. And we get to where the trail kind of keeps going this way, but then it turns off. And then when it turns off, it opens up. And so one of the tribal men, as we got up there, was standing there where the turn is. And we get up to him, and he's like, we're here. And the chief said, and I said, okay. And so my friend's wife said, I'm not going in. Can I stand right here? Can I stand right here? He says, yeah. So she stood with the one tribal guy. Me and my friend walked in with the chief. As we walked in, it turned, you know, the trail turned. And then on the ground, you could see humanoid skulls. And it was like they placed them on the side of the trail like a railing, like how you would rocks. So I want to say about 15 feet of that. And then the skull got bigger and got about to knee high. And then the skull got bigger than that, about another 10, 15 feet further. And at that point, I spotted the big skull, and it was a big skull laying on the ground sideways, you know, like this. And as I spotted that, I was like, you know, I'm hitting my friend like this, hey, you know, and my eyes are just on that, not moving. And I looked at the chief, and I said, how big's that skull? And because you could see, you know, it's a skull. He said if it was straight up, I believe it would probably be 27 feet tall if it was standing straight up. I'm like, wow. So of course, my friend, she is a tomboy. So she instantly was over there trying to touch it, tap on it, knock on it. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, kind of thing. And she's like, look. And on the bottoms of the skull, it was almost like the ground was like a change of a rustic looking color, like almost rust, and a purpley. And so I asked the chief, I said, what, why does it look like that? He said, don't touch it. He said, that's these, you know, from the skull rotting and the stuff going in the ground. And he's like, just don't touch that. And so I was like, okay. Well, I walked up, Barnaby, and I walked in the eye of the skull laying sideways like that. I walked in this eye and could not touch this end of the eye. I had to get on my tippy toes and jump, and I could touch that end. That's how tall the eye was sideways. I walked in it. I'm like, wow, it was like somebody could make a home inside the skull. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could live in there. And I'm like, this is weird. And so we come out of there, you know, checking out the skulls. I asked him, where's the bones? He said, he just shook his head at me. He didn't answer me. So I had no idea where bones were. It looked like across the field area. It looked like a long leg bone, like maybe a tree that somebody skinned, which I think was a bone. So one of the tribal members came over to the chief, started whispering something to him. The chief said, okay, we're going to have to get out of here now. So I'm like, okay. So we walked back to where her girlfriend was. And then the chief started talking to that tribal man, like something important was going on. He said, we're going to have to go. And I said, what's going on? And he pointed, and it was probably about 30 feet, 40 feet from that guy. there was a dead creature on the ground, black. And so I believe it was a Bigfoot looking creature. Black as could be. I got pictures of it that I'm going to release. You could see his feet, you could see his head, you could see blood on him. Something killed him. He told me that we had to leave because the fact that that creature, something killed him, and there's something's probably still around there. So we got out of there. We followed him out. Of course, we're shocked. We're like, you know what I mean? All this stuff's going through your head. And, we knocked on the skulls. It looked so real. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, could these guys got a fake skull like that here? And, all that stuff's going through your mind. And we get back to the village, and we sit down, and the chief starts telling us some more stories. We had lunch, and then one of the tribal members came over. We went over by the ocean to smoke our cigarettes because we didn't want to smoke by no huts, catch anything on fire, make anybody upset. Plus, these people don't smoke, so that's rude, and get nothing in their face. So we walked over by the ocean. We're smoking cigarettes, and we're looking at each other like, wasn't that crazy today? We're going on about it. Well, a tribal member come over, and he said, hey, he said to my friend, he said, I'll take you guys and show you the giants, some giant creatures, for a small sum of cash. And instantly she said, yes. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you, man. And she's like, no, she pushes on me. Go on. She's like, yes, sir. This is great. When can we do this? He said, okay, well, after you eat, you eat dinner, and we'll head out, a couple hours before dark. So he's like, meet me here. I'm like, no, thanks, man. And once again, I was being rude, and I'm not a rude guy. I was just like being like, hey, no, thanks, man. Putting some stern in there so he knew that, back off. You know what I mean? Because I figured, man, who knows, man? They're gonna rob us. Who knows? You can't. You just gotta watch everybody in life. So she's insisting on going. At that point, I went back to the village with them, and her girlfriend, of course, is scared, crying, telling me, tell her not to go. I'm like, I did, and I'm not gonna go. I'm standing my ground, and so let's make that story short. So later on comes, she walks over there, she's ready to go. She's got her shoes, she's ready to go, she's all geeked, happy. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going. Either you're going with me or I'm going alone. And so her friend's like, don't let her go by herself. I'm thinking if something happens to her, now I feel guilty. I'm the man, I'm the guy, not that that's any different. There's tough women out there, but I feel like, now I should be watching over her. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. Of course, now I got an attitude. I'm walking, I'm following her. We go down to the beach. We meet this guy. We follow him. He back to a little area where there's this little pickup truck, brown pickup truck, beat up. We hop in that. We drive 2 hours up into the mountains. The guy seems like he's going 5 miles an hour, taking forever. So I tell him, hey, man, it's been a long time. So I'm really nervous, man. And I'm like, hey, I said something to her, and I'm like, I knocked on the window. He opens the window, and he's like, we're almost there. And he shuts the window on me. I didn't even get a chance to say anything to the man. So now it made me even more nervous and scared, because I'm thinking, I'm not believing in these giant creatures, man. I just seen skull, but still it's not sank in. I'm like, that could be anything, could be fake to me. I don't know. Maybe they're playing. I don't know. You know what I mean? You see something that is unbelievable, it's hard to believe it. And so, I'm thinking I'm going to get robbed or killed. He's taking us up to some tribal guys to kill us. So now I'm even really nervous, and I almost feel insulted and mad that he shut that on my face like that. Well, in about 10 minutes that went by after that, and he pulled over to the side of the dirt road. Now this is a 2-lane track where it's a dirt road, but you can only go this way, 2 lanes on it. So he pulls over to the side. Now, when you know how when you go on traveling down, you're traveling somewhere throughout the States and you pull over and there's like a sight area where you can pull over and it kind of overlooks everything. And then you can, pull out your binoculars and look at the scenery or whatever at the rest stop. It was it reminded me of that. It wasn't a rest stop, but it reminded me of how you pull over and look over the ravine. So he pulls over and he's like, come on, come on. My friend, of course, is right with him. I'm taking my time real slowly. I get out the truck. I walk over. He hands me the binoculars. Like, here. As soon as I get up to that ledge of that ravine, top of that ravine, I can already see all down there. It's like something's going on. Tons and tons of things down there just moving around and going. Something's going on. I can see it. So he hands me the binoculars. I take a look. And I'm just like, I don't know how long I stood there like that. I could see all kinds of creatures, Barnaby. I could see Bigfoot looking creatures. I could see skulls on the ground. I could see like big skulls on the ground. I could see there was a wall. It looked like it was made out of wood, almost like how you would watch King Kong, how that wall is. It was an ancient wall, I take it, and there was creatures all over the place, all different ones. Ones with one looked like it had a horse head, one in a human body. One, it's really hard to come across because it's just wacky. It's crazy. And there was one that looked like Bigfoot, all hairy, and one next to him. And the one next to him had a humanoid foot and human hands and a human looking face. But the other one didn't. He had claws. And I'm like, wow. And I'm looking and I took the binoculars down thinking, technology is amazing. We all know that. So I thought, maybe this is a pair of pair of binoculars from China or something. And you hold them up and it tricks you and you take, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. I'm watching, I'm kind of thinking all basics. So I take the binoculars down. My friend has a pair of binoculars, just the smaller ones that she brought with her that I remember, I knew. So I go to look at her. And when I look at her, she's got her cell phone in her hand. And she's got one of those cameras that are hooked to her cell phone, that extend lens thing on the back. You can get them on Amazon. And she's taking pictures and stuff. And I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, hey, let me see your binoculars. She just didn't even look at me, went like this and handed them to me. I grab her binoculars. I take a look, same thing. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm taking my time, looking. I hand the binoculars back because I want the big binoculars back now, because I know it's not a binocular trick. So I grab his binoculars back. He's smiling at me like I'm silly. I look through his binoculars and I'm like, wow. And it was like time just went so fast. Next thing you know, I hear this kaboom. Like I used to be a chainsaw carver. I was 11 years #1 competition for carving sculptures in Michigan. I thought to myself, that sounded like a tree fell down because I've cut trees down before. I know that sound. Kaboom, it's time to go. We got to go. I look at him. He's serious can be. I'm like, okay. I'm like, hey, let's go. She's busy still with that phone. She don't want to walk away. It's like she didn't even hear me say that. He's like, I'm telling you now, if you don't come now, I'm leaving you. And he starts to walk off. I said, come on. I start to grab her arm. She's like, okay. Puts her cell phone away. I don't know if she's taking pictures at this moment. I just know she's looking through that scope. So I get in the back of the truck. We get in the truck. We start to take off. He's taking off fast. And I'm like, this guy's drove 5 miles an hour. And all of a sudden now he's driving fast. So we didn't even say anything, Barnaby, to each other until probably about 20 minutes till we got to the village. I mean, we were just, I guess it was shock. I don't know. It was just like we were just zoned out. And so we about 20 minutes from the village, I said something to her And she said, it's all good. And she smiled. And I'm like, looked at her. And she goes, I have 254 pictures or something like that, 56 pictures or 246 pictures or something. And 11 videos. And I'm like, shut up. Like, saying it like, shut up, like, no way. You know what I mean? And so she's just instantly shut up. I'm like, shut up, I don't say nothing. Now I'm scared she's got this shit on her phone. So I'm like, oh, we get back to the town, to the village. Of course, we're just like, it's now it's getting dark. Like it's just breaking down to the last 5 minutes where it's gonna get dark. So we go over by the fire. I start talking, and the chief looks at me, and he's just looking at me, and he's not saying nothing. And of course, I'm just like, I'm looking at him like, like I just seen some shit. And he's looking at me like he knows, and so I'm like, it was just like really funny. So we talked for probably about an hour before we went to sleep, the chief and I, and, we sat around the fire, and he said, now do you believe what I've told you? And I'm like, no. And he looked at me and smiled and thought I was being funny, but I was trying to say, in a sense, I'm trying to believe in, because I can't believe what I've seen out of my eyes. I can't believe what I've seen. So I'm trying to, but still I'm in that thought of, no, this is like a dream, wow. So the next morning comes, or that night came, we go to lay down. I did not sleep at all, man. I don't think I slept at all. We were getting picked up the next day. And so I'm like, whew, I'm freaking out. And then my friend's freaking out. She's like, she's just going a mile a minute, and her girlfriend, of course, is crying, scared, wants to go home. It's the first day we got there, her wife wanted to go home. When she seen those skulls, she was done. And there was no way to go home because your cell phone did not work. And we were supposed to be picked up, on Sunday morning. So that was our pickup, be there or be square, so we were stuck. And so at that point, I talked to the chief that morning. I'm skipping a lot of parts because like she went to give the guy $20 for taking us, and I gave him $1,000, man. He's got 7 kids, he claimed. To me, you showed me something I never seen in my entire life. $1,000 was nothing to me at the time because I was making tons of money. I thought $20 was an insult for that. So I was like, keep that, you know what I mean? I'm like, here, man, thank you. And I shook his hand. I grabbed his hand with my other hand, like, thank you so much, And so I talked to the chief that morning, and, I gave him $1,000. I gave him $500 and for letting us stay. And he didn't even want the money. And I said, no, get some stuff, get some, because they get rations there. They get so much rice from the States, so much water. They get certain things, and they don't get much at certain times. He told me. We ate with them, real fishy stuff, where, if you don't have the taste for fishy food, ooh, you know what I mean? My friend's friend didn't even eat none of the food there. She was just eating her snacks that she did have, because of that. And, it's like, ooh, I'm not into fishy fish. So, but, I'm still interested in your culture, and I want to try your food. You know what I mean? Long story short, they fear for their life every day there. They have to survive every day there. The government, it is forbidden to talk about the giants there. People that come there have no idea what the skulls are even there for. They don't tell the tourists like that. They don't share that. And then people go there and go, what's these skulls all over the place for? And they have no idea. And that's what, these tribal people claim. He also told me that there are several different giants there. The one that goes invisible. I said, have you ever heard of Bigfoot? He said, no. He didn't even know what that word meant, you know. No radio, no TV. So they don't know, you know what I mean? And he claimed it went invisible. It was a hairy giant creature that goes invisible, that looks similar to an ape, and that he's very mean and likes to eat and breed. That's it. And he's not that, you know, intelligent with anything. That's his main concept, is what he kind of told me. And he told me that they're skull collectors and that they will kill you, and they will eat you there. He also told me that back in the day that he heard from his grandfather, that his grandfather heard from his family down the line, that Japan came in there and tried to kill these giants years and years and years ago. And he also mentioned to me the Bikini Atoll bombings, and that Salem Island was on the list, and the treaty went up before they got to Salem Island. And then after that, they sent the Japan over there to kill these creatures, is what he claims. And he claims that the creatures chased the Japan soldiers off the island, that he said there's a skull out there in the ocean, probably about 30 feet, big giant skull. You can see that it's changed over. And I'm like, whoa. And he's like, we can go out there and look. And I just took his word for that. I did not go out there to see that. Even though I was interested, because I was still, you know, I had that wishy-washy feel, you know, and I was shocked from everything, and it was just crazy. So then we get on the airplane, we get picked up, get on the airplane. Now, mind you, this airplane, we had to fly for, you know, a lot of hours, man. You know, you're talking, this is, you know, take a plane to Guatemala, take a plane. It's, you're looking at 16, 17 hours of fucking plane flights, man, to go there from United States and shit. It's a long, dragged out shit. We didn't talk. We didn't laugh. We didn't talk much. It was like, I think that was kind of Barnaby, because the 2 nights we didn't sleep much, you know? So, you know, it was like, before we left that morning, though, I noticed, this is one thing I have to bring up. The chief was very cool with me, and all the tribal people were just so hospitality to you. It was pathetic, you know? It was like you were Michael Jackson popping up somewhere, and they're all like, oh, you know what I mean? They all want something to do with you. You know, they're touching you. And they're touching you just because they, you know, touching your features. And, you know, we got hair in certain spots, and they're just checking us out. And, you know, so they did this seance there. And they took feathers, and they have these little tiny shells that they're really pretty, and they actually trade these shells for goods with other tribal people. It's like money, and it's a seashell, so they use it like a money, and they trade and they do stuff, you know, with the shell. They buy stuff. I'm like, okay, well, those shells were on these feather things. And these women came over, and they were like, la, 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 and they're waving these, you know, feathers things above my head. And I'm just like, you know, kind of like, you know, how you go to a restaurant and all of a sudden they're like, happy birthday. You know, it's like a surprise, and you're just like, you got that like, whoa look to you. So I had that, and the chief told me, oh, they're just doing a seance to free your spirit and soul. So I'm mentioning that because I don't know what the hell, if I got cursed or what. So I get home, you know, of course, and I'm like, oh man, this is bizarre. This is crazy. I'm like, you know, I'm not talking. I'm not being myself. You know, I'm a happy go person, and you know, got a great personality. I'm always talking. I just wasn't myself, man. And the next day I get up, and you know, my friend calls, and she's like, hey, you got to come get this chip. And I said, why? And I said, what's up? And she goes, she's like, Tammy's going to show her mom. She's already told her mom that we seen giant creatures, that me and you did, and she's going to show her. And she goes, I want this out of here. I don't want her mom freaking out on her. I don't want the law, whatever, we got to cover this up. Get over here now. So I'm like, okay, I hop in the car. I go over there. I get back. I went and got the chip. While I was there, Tammy wasn't there. So we're looking at the pictures on the thing. And now it's freaking me out. I'm like, zoom into that. This is my first time seeing the pictures she took. And she's zooming in. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I speechless. And so I grabbed the chip after we looking for a few minutes. She's got 200 some odd pictures, and she's got 11 videos. Some of them are 1 minute and 45 seconds, 3 minutes. They're just all little different couple minutes where she's started so which was cool. So I get home, I sit down, I put this chip in again. It's like I'm addicted to look. I start looking. Of course, I'm freaking out now, and now I'm starting to think, did they know? Did they know we seen them? Does the government know? Because of all the talk, they even say men in black are not human. So I'm just like, whoa, I couldn't eat, Barnaby. I was 305 pounds. I wasn't fat, but I was thick, big. I lost 80 to 100 pounds instantly within that month, man. I couldn't eat. Take two bites of food and I was done for the day. I couldn't sleep at night. I was up all night long, worried that they were coming to get me. Had to have the light on. I'm like, this is terrible. I'm an adult, man. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm just like, that's what I was going through. And it was really hard. And I kept looking at the pictures every day and freaking out on myself and going, wow. And then I thought to myself at that point, when I lived in Arizona, I was married to a lady out there, and we used to go hiking, and we came across some hair, a purse, changed purse on the ground, a cell phone, a pair of underwear, girls' underwear, the ground all scuffed up, kind of looked like blood on the ground. And my ex-wife was like, take that phone and take that cell phone. When we get home, we'll call the police. There was a girl that was missing out here that they found her body dead. And I'm like, what? All right, whatever. She grabs the phone. We take the phone home. We go home. I call the police department. I tell the police department that we found the phone. She says, okay, Ethan, can you give me the phone number off the phone? I said, let me see. So we put it on a little charger and tried to charge it for a minute, turned it on. The number popped up. I gave her the phone number. She said, if it has anything to do with that girl they found over there, that we will, the FBI will give you a call. It'll be all double zeros. I said, okay. So I'm waiting. In the meantime, I go get on Google Earth and I start looking around and in that area, and I could see the girl's skeleton and laying sideways in the wash. And I'm like, what? And it's a guy's yard, and he has fences. And then the wash he can't fence off that runs through his yard. And the body's in that wash. And the fence over here is busted, and there's mud tracks in the ground over here where a truck or something must have sank in the ground. And then you see two tracks going, it looks like four-wheeler tracks going from that broken fence to the body. So the FBI guy calls. I tell him what I seen on Google Earth. He says, okay, Ethan. He says, can you show me when I get there? I said, yeah. So about 20 minutes goes by, and they're there. He's at my door. Comes in, sits down. I give him the cell phone. He says, I want to see that Google Earth you were talking about. I said, okay. I pull it up. I show him. He's like, his mouth's open. He's looking. He's like, can you pull that up on my phone? And I'm like, yeah. And I pull it up on his phone. He's looking at it. And I'm explaining, you see the tracks here, this. And he's like, Ethan, he shakes my hand. He's like, you made a break in the case. He's like, her body was actually 20 feet down from that when we got her. And the way the wash flows a certain way, somebody would have had to drag her up because she wouldn't have washed down. The water don't flow that way. So somebody moved her body up to that location, 20 feet more up, And that's where we pulled her at and found her at. And so I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm just trying to help out. He's like, there's a $10,000 reward. I'm like, I don't want it. I'm like, I'm just, I watched the videos on YouTube and I seen how concerned her father was, that her mother's passed years back, and her father's just terrible. And, I would really like him to know, that, hey, whatever, help out, whatever. So he's like, okay. About 3 months later goes by and he contacts me back, wants me to look again in the desert because I'm so good at Google Earth for another body. Well, this body they have not found, and I located it about a week later. So that was a break in the case. So I'm very good at Google Earth. So I thought to myself, Barnaby, when I got home, I'm going to get on Google Earth and I'm going to take a look, because if these islanders are saying these creatures get 50 feet tall and 60 feet tall, you can see a house on Google Earth. I should be able to see them. So I got on Google Earth and I started finding them. And I'm like, oh my God. And I could zoom right in and you could see the whole perfect silhouette of its hands, its arms, its weapon, its head. I'm like, this is, common sense. This is what it is. And, I would get down there, and once I get down, I take a picture of it, and I'd examine it, and I'd try to clear it up, and I try to, I got to prove this. If this is what it is, I got to prove it to myself before I believe it. So I had to do that. And I started doing that. And I was like, wow. And at the same time, I was like, oh my God. Well, I met a guy that was an architect, a very awesome man, Joe Hopkins. He actually has been studying pyramids for over 20 years and giants. And he says, hey, I want to interview you, Ethan. I didn't even know I didn't even know him. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. And he's like, let's start a YouTube channel and let's get you out there, man. Let's get your story out there, help people and let people know. Do you know there's a lot of stories about Solomon Island giants? And I'm like, no, I didn't even know. And he's like, yeah. So then he got me turned on to watching and seeing what was going on. And I'm like, holy cow. Well, at that point, he started showing me, he said, there's creatures in the United States. And he goes, let me show you. And he showed me some creatures, man. And I'm like, wow, giants that look like humans and shit. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, just to tell you, I just want to tell you that Solomon Island is not the only place. And I'm like, okay. So then me and Joe started doing some shows together, about, him, his architect and his discoveries with giant fossils and all this. And, he interviewed me, and, we made a rule of thumb not to look in our area, on Google Earth, because he was pretty good on it as well. And so, I, at the same time, Barnaby, I started looking at military bases and all that shit, and I started finding them in there. And I would make a video about it. Why am I hiding it? You know what I mean? And so I make a video about it. Look, man, there is creatures in there just like there is over here. And then I started doing that, and I started watching 411, and I would go look where those guys are missing. So I went up and looked at Ron's camp area and found creatures all over and made a video about it. Of course, Ron's seen it. I made one about another man that was missing on 411. And when I went down to his location, Thomas Sickless, you could see creatures all throughout the whole entire woods. Like they were everywhere there. And I'm like, oh my God, there's not just one or two. There's hundreds of them in here. Very clear. Elmos laboratory went in there, and back in the back of the private property, there's creatures all over there in the video. You can see them picking up logs and carrying them. It's like they're building a structure. If anyone's interested, check that out. And so I started doing that. Well, Joe got scared, and he told me, hey, listen, man, I'm a musician, which he is. And he's like, I can't, my wife's really scared. I got to step back, man. I ain't got time. I got to step back. I got a lot of gigs right now. I'm like, okay. Well, with that, I thought to myself, I can't stop, because my life was just changing. I started to, I was finding these creatures everywhere, and so used to it now that I think that's what trained my eyes, but I'm not sure if the spell they did on me did it. But I think I trained my eyes off of Google Earth in order to be able to see them. I don't know. Some people say when you stare into the abyss, it stares back. Once you see these creatures, you can't stop seeing them. I'm hearing all this shit, and I'm like, so now I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to just like trip out. I have tons of pictures of them in Salem Island on my friend's camera, where they are picking up a humanoid looking giant in their hand and with their mouth open. And some of them just have it in their hand, and you can see perfectly clear the picture of the giant in the hand and perfectly clear of the giant here, so I'm like, so I'm on a mission that they're all out to kill us. So now mind you, now I started to think about what the chief said, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look up and see about this Bikini Hotel. So I did that, and Phil Snyder came up. Well, then I researched and watched Phil Snyder, and I watched him say it was an alien agenda takeover and that they were bombing these Bikini Hotel islands. So then I went on Google Earth to these Bikini Hotel islands. The same creatures on Solomon Island are on these islands. When they drop the bomb on these islands, it's like, say, take a piece of pizza, a pizza pie, and say you cut the middle out of the pizza and you leave the whole outer part. When they drop that bomb in the middle of the island, it goes woof and blows everything up like this and makes a crust island. So when you go on Google Earth and you zoom down to these islands they bombed, there's still an island there. There's trees and everything around that crust. And there's a lot of land between that crust. So it's an island still, but the middle's blown out. Same creatures on these islands are on Salem Island, and the same creatures are here in United States. Same exact creatures, all different ones, but they're same looking, ones. I looked, I'm like, are these the same? And so at that point, Barnaby, I got scared. I'm thinking I'm going to buy flare guns. I did some research. I seen that the Indians, the natives, fought with some of these creatures and fought them back with dipping their tar in the arrows and shooting them. And I'm just like, okay, fire. So I'm thinking I'm going to buy some flare guns. So now, mind you, here I am, I'm outside and I'm making spears. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing, man? I'm losing it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh shit, and of course I got kids and I'm thinking, damn, I'm losing it. This is not cool, and I'm scared and I want to protect my family, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh shit. And, it was really hard, Barnaby. It was really hard. I'd have nervous breakdowns for 3 days, crying, and I'm not like that. I'm not a sissy guy at all. And I'm just like, oh, what is going on? And at the same time now, I get up and I'm an older guy, so I like to go for walks, instead of driving, because I figure if I walk to the corner store instead of driving, it's more healthy. I get some exercise, burn off some of that calories of the soda I drink, because I love Mountain Dew. So, and you gain weight off it. So I'm like, so I, walk to the store. Well, I'm butted up. I'm up in Hayward, Wisconsin, and you're familiar with Hayward. We have all the forest around the outer part of the town. Well, I'm on the edge of town, and I have forest, right across the street, and on the side of me, just goes into major forest. Nothing there, swamps and forest, and so I get outside and I go to walk the dog down the street, and I look over, and I'm like, and what I noticed. And I'll put this out there, and this might help a lot of people that look for Bigfoot and they look for creatures. And I advise you not to, even though people do, because they're out there be Bigfoot researching. It's a very dangerous thing to do. I'm standing there and I look over and I see a Bigfoot looking creature and another looking creature that I don't know what to, say he looks like, because the other one looks like the creature that people talk of Bigfoot. Just staring at me, just standing there about 10 feet into the woods, right at the wood line. by the road. And this is a road that's barely kind of used. And so I'm standing there and I'm like, oh shit. And as I notice him, I notice down the road there's a car coming. So, and he's about 60 feet down. So I thought, don't run, because I knew I was seeing something. And I thought, don't run, pull your camera out and take a picture. I don't know why I thought that. And so I thought, okay. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to take a picture of you. You don't mind? And I pull I'm scared shitless now, Barnaby. So I figured if I just go ahead and play it like a talk to him, I'll feel better. So I'm like, I'm going to take a picture if you don't mind. I pull my camera out. I start taking pictures and I put my camera away. The car comes by and I figured if he's going to get me, he's going to get me in front of that car. You know what I mean? And that car will see, hopefully, I can, okay, I felt a little safer with that car there coming. So I take some pictures. I put the phone back in my pocket and I say, thank you for the pictures. I just want to show everyone you exist. I love you. And I walk off and they don't hurt me. So then my next encounter, same thing. I walking down the road and here's a dinosaur looking creature. I can see him. He looks kind of lizardy dinosaur, about 20 feet, about 15 feet tall. Same thing. Part of his body is showing, part of it ain't. And the part that ain't showing, I can see it looks like the movie Predator. Or just say even the movie Prey that came out. If you watch the movie Prey, these creatures, when they go invisible, not when they appear, because I don't know if they look like the Predator, but when they're invisible, they have that same effect as that movie. So that goes for everybody. So keep your eye open for that clear effect. So I was like, whoa, and I could see his head perfectly clear and part of his hand coming out where his arm perfectly clear. And then I could see that effect of his body. So I stopped. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? You mind if I take a couple pictures to show you guys exist? Just moving his head like this, just watching me, his eyes moving. He turns his head looking at me like he's trying to understand me. So I'm like, oh shit. You know what I mean? I thought, okay, I did the same thing, put the phone away after I took pictures. I'm like, you look very beautiful today. Have a good day. I love you. I walk off. Nothing happened to me. I'm like, okay. So for some reason, Barnaby, between getting scared at home and flipping out, almost ready to go to a nut home. I ain't kidding you. Even though there's people in my family that have seen these pictures and know that's exactly what I see. That's exactly what we seen. I still was going to flip out. You know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like the world's coming to an end. What's going on here? Are they going to kill us? Are they going to attack us? And so then at that point, I talked to a couple. And I was like, I'm going to interview this couple because they say they have a Bigfoot family across the water from them. They claim they feed them and there's no bad shit going on. And I'm like, I got to talk to these people. They're older couple, very intelligent, very smart man. The man is very intelligent. Same with the woman. And I'm just like, okay. So I interview them. And they tell me how they feed the creatures and they have a Bigfoot family across the water from them and the LBL. And I'm like, So, I watch them and after I interviewed them, I must have watched the video about 50 times afterward, just trying to study the people, just staring at every move they made while they were talking and telling, and I'm seeing the emotions go. And I'm like, these people are telling the truth. And I'm just like, oh my God. And at that point, it made me feel so much better, Barnaby, because I thought some of these creatures aren't killing people. And some of these people out there, at the same time, I started seeing other people talk, they're having interreactions. And I thought, okay. So some of these creatures aren't killing them. Okay. And they're not killing me. And I also had someone tell me that a native relative told me that, listen, that these creatures have been here way before us and that they are multiplying and that they've been here, so don't freak out, and have they killed you yet? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, I guess you got a point. So I was like, okay, so that helped me and calmed me down because I was freaking out, man. And so then I started having more reactions, interactions, and then I started to walk in the woods where these creatures, a lot of times I would see them at the roadside. I made myself a little spot where I walked in about, 50 feet where you couldn't see the road. And I sit down there and then I started having interactions left and right. Orbs with creatures coming out right in front of me. It's like they don't care that I see it, or they're showing me. And then I spoke with a lady who does mind speak, and she told me to try to mind speak with them. I tried that. I don't know if it works, man. But as soon as I tried it, it was, hey, do you guys want me to stop taking pictures of you? And I'd instantly feel no. No, it would go right to my head. And then I tried it several times, and it was just like, no, no. Uh, so I was at that point, I remained to take the pictures, and I remained to be comfortable with it because I have not been attacked. And now I've gained faith. Now I've gained trust and faith, and I can feel it. You know how you can feel stuff, and I can, you feel someone's vibes, you feel I feel it, and it's I have no threat, no harm. We actually have one that comes in out of our tree in the backyard. I have pictures and videos of. I have a lot of videos that I have one going into a tree that's in our backyard, and in the woods that's in our backyard. So it's not right in our backyard. It would be like national forest or whatever of up here, but it's butted up to us. So I do have a picture of the one in the tree, and then I touch the tree and he moves over to the side of the tree, and then I move, and then in the video you can't see my arm right here, but you can see my hand touching the tree, and it looks like a little tiny human hand touching my finger. It's weird. And then I move my hand in the video, and you can see the creature. He instantly, when I touch the tree, goes to one side, and then I pull my hand away, and because the person who was filming is telling me you can't see your arm in the video, and I'm like, really? And I move my hand away, and when I did, that whole entire black went woof straight up the tree, almost like just like, here you go, the pop just goes whoop, and you watch it move. So, I tell Ron about this, and of course Ron and me were like, okay, and Ron's like, maybe we shouldn't post that yet because, really, trees are beings too. They're alive. Bushes, trees are alive. That's how they grow. Energy force, whatever. So we don't want people to burn the trees down. And I said, yeah, you got a point. And so I didn't post that yet, and I figured I'd save that for the documentary so everybody could see theirself how it does that. And then we also have the video of the one coming out of the tree in our yard and sitting on the ground and hanging out, moving his head around, and then he go back in the tree, and we have video of it. So we will be releasing a lot of these videos in the documentary. I got videos of portholes. I got videos of creatures, yes, that are going to go in there. Also, the Salem Island videos of my friend took, we are going to put that in the document during my interview part of the document. So that way everybody can see the creatures of Solomon Island as well. So with that, I was really good at doing this, Google Earth for some reason. And so I was finding creatures on there as well. And I went over to the LBL after that interview, and I found mama and her babies that those people feed. And I took pictures of it, and she wanted the pictures so she could hang it on her wall. And so that was amazing. And so after that, I started searching around different locations throughout the United States, and I came across some pyramids where people do not know they're there, and where people really don't go, which is full of creatures area. And I took a bunch of pictures of them, and I had those pictures. I turned them into an architect, and his mentor looked at the pictures as well, and they came back telling us that they were real pyramids. So at that point, we figured, okay, and you could see there's creatures all around these pyramids. So at that point, um, Darrell reached out to me because I was finding creatures all over the place. And he's like, "Hey, man, you're finding all these creatures. My name's Darrell. Nice to meet you. I was just wondering, Ethan, if you could share some of these, photos with me on these creatures you're finding." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a good guy." I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And so me and Darrell became friends, and I was showing him pictures, and then Darrell had me look in a couple spots as well, and then I located those pyramids, and then showed those to Darrell, and showed a picture to Darrell, and he spotted, and he's like, "Is that a pyramid in the back?" And we're like, "Yeah, let me look again," and we located them, and at that point, we decided to become friends as a group, and get a team together, and make a documentary movie, because I've been on TV for 17 years, and one of my best friends is the film director, and he's a TV channel owner. So I'm like, we can do this. We can put this movie together, and prove to people that these creatures exist, more than what the proof is out there. And so he was like, yeah. And so then we started to get, a little time went by, and so I tried to find several areas to get to these pyramids the quickest, fastest, safest way. GP it down. So I was doing process of doing that, and I found a spot where it was probably about 10 feet in from the road trees where you can see the pyramids. So I contacted somebody that lives about 450 miles away, and I'll just say, my cousin, she don't care, I'll just put it out there, and she drove over to that location, and she filmed these pyramids for about 35 minutes on film. She zoomed in, she got them close up, she got creatures walking all over in front of these pyramids on the ground, and she made it back safely. And I was really worried about her, and she made it back safely. And I do have the film, but I don't have it at home in case the FBI is listening. So, and I'm not going to give it to you. So, so half the battle's done. So now we just have to go out to this location and see if we can make it in there, with the creatures, that are in the forest, because we do already have the pyramids on film, period. And so, it's all going good. And we got some top men, of course we have, Ron Morehead, and he is a very smart man, and he knows a lot about quantum physics. And so he's going to teach a lot of that during this documentary to people. We're going to teach people and show people how you can spot where these creatures are, and what they do and their abilities they do. We're going to prove. We're going to prove that they can go invisible. We're going to prove that they can go in and out of trees. We're going to blow the world's mind. Darrell Denton, of course, he's had several encounters. Used to be a mayor, which is a big thing. Everybody should listen to a mayor. You got somebody important like that's talking, you should listen, and I think a lot of people, when they interview Darrell, they don't really pay attention. Same with Martin. They don't really pay attention to the fact of who those people are. Darrell was a mayor of Tennessee at one time, and Martin Groves was a sheriff. That should mean something to people, because that's just not your average person stepping up. That is somebody with some credentials that is actually saying, hey, listen, man, I mean, if you believed in your mayor or whatever, the mayor is telling you there's creatures out here, you would be going, whoa, 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 whoa. So I kind of don't think people pay attention to the fact of who those two men are. And they just kind of, they had encounters. Wait a minute. This guy was a mayor. Wait a minute. This guy was a sheriff. He retired as a sheriff. He started when he was 18 years old. I mean, come on. So it's people need to understand that that's a good clunk. So if those two step up and say, so if the president stepped up and told you, you ain't gonna believe him either. I mean, who's above that? You know what I mean? Government officials. We've had Canada, a senator of Canada speak out and talk about UFOs and stuff. It's like this people just, it's like, okay, whatever. So those are some very important people. Mike Smith, he's an awesome researcher. He's worked a lot with Martin Groves, and it's he's on it. He knows he's got good vibes. So we got a great group, and half of our battle's done, and like I say, we're going to prove a lot of things to a lot of people. This documentary is going to prove to a lot. And when we put this out there, we are going to put it out there like that. So that way the government doesn't catch it and try to stop us. So we're just going to slip it out. That way it's out there. We're going to get it on Amazon for everywhere. And then if they pull some shit afterward, hey, oh, well, it's out. Everybody got to see part of it. So a lot of people did. You know what I mean? So we got a lot of platforms we're going to cover once we get the movie done. So these creatures, here we go. This is what the show is actually. Bigfoot encounters with interdimensional beings. So let me tell you something. This goes for everybody. These creatures are interdimensional beings. Let me say, they can go invisible. They can go in and out of different dimensions. They can vibrate themselves to change their frequency to go in and out of these dimensions. And it's very hard for people to understand. I know it's like watching a cartoon and going, oh, okay, right. You know what I mean? Fairy tale land or whatever. But we are only know what we are taught. And we were taught that these creatures didn't exist. We were taught that, a whole nother way. We were hid from the truth. Everybody can do the research. They used to, crush the skulls of giants, and, Smithsonian and the churches were involved in that. And then you got to stop yourself and go, if you do the research, you'll see that the churches were involved, and you have to stop yourself and go, why were the churches involved? Why would the churches be involved? Why would the churches smash a skull to hide that from us? When I vow to in the church and pray to God, why, people do, not me, but people, why would you do that? Why? That's common sense tells you something's funny there. They're trying to hide it. So these creatures, there's a lot of different ones. It's not just Bigfoot and it's not just Dogman. These interdimensional beings, when they enter into our dimension, they have to fall by the law of our dimension. And so they have to come into form. Form can be a lot of different things. Let me explain this. Light is form. So you want to think, okay, form isn't me, or form is that creature over there in the ground, or form could be a tree. Form can be light. So a lot of these creatures, when they do come in, they are a form of light. So now mind me, I think a lot of people that have paranormal interactions, that they feel that they're seeing Jesus or an angel, because the fact that we are taught that from being young, that going to church, that angel hovering above the bed. So that's the first thing we think of. To where I believe a lot of these encounters of the paranormal bedside thinking it's Jesus above your bed, or a light was shining above my bed, so it was an angel. I believe a lot of those are these interdimensional beings, and that these interdimensional beings now they work off of telepathy, and they are telepathic. So that is, it's you do telepathy with your dogs or your cats. They know daddy or mama's upset. They come running up and they're trying to kiss you a bunch of times, and you're upset because, my father just passed away, and my dog knows. You know what I mean? It's telepathy. The same way they work, and they also do mind speak, mind reading, and they can put words into your mind, and they are very intelligent. I believe nobody will ever be able to kill them like that unless you know the abilities. Like our military probably has certain goggles and certain ways that they do know. Anybody that's out to go out and shoot a Bigfoot, you're looking for trouble. They don't. When I have interactions, I don't have to. I'll just put it this way: I could take this. Too bad I couldn't just pick this laptop and walk out there right now and just go show you. It's instantly with me, and I don't know if it's because they're watching me. Maybe I don't know what the deal is, but it's instantly with me, and I don't have to look for them. I don't. If you look for them, it's like you won't find them. If I go out there and just walk down the road and they're there, and I look and they're there, and it's not like I've like how people go looking for researching and looking for Bigfoot. I don't have to do that, and now with what I do. And like I've went into Yellowstone, and hey, look, man, there's creatures all over right there. I started to feel regretful on that, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to give off the exact location anymore. And then I had a few different people that reached out to me and asked for help, knowing they had creatures around their property. And then I would locate the creatures, and then I would take pictures of them and show them with the coordinates where those creatures were. And then I had a man that was trying to find some information out for me, and then he turned around and told me he was going to go shoot one. That's why I at that point I thought, I'm not going to do that no more, because I'm not trying to cause these beings any harm. These beings have not harmed me. And I don't want to, they're powerful. I don't want to try and cause any trouble with them whatsoever. I have years back, I met a girl, and we were out on a porch, and we were looking up at the stars, and we lived in Arizona. And in Arizona, you see a lot of strange stuff go on in the skies, flashing lights, strange shit. Well, this thing was hovering above my house, and it had these colors, red and green and blue, and it was like it was flashing them, almost like a cop car, flashes their color. And I'm looking up, and I'm like, okay. And I start talking to her again, and we're laughing, having a good old time. And I look up again, and and I said to the hovering thing, I said, hey, I put my hands together, and I said, hey, if you can help me have a baby, can you do that, please? I said, I want to have a baby with this girl. And she went, what are you doing? And she smacked at me like, you're silly. You know what I mean? She didn't believe it would work or not, but she just went, and laughing at me. And a couple of weeks later, we found out she was pregnant. So I'm like, wow. Well, then we get down to about the last 2 months of delivery. And she's like, listen, you got some social media stuff, because we're low on money, and we got to get cribs and baby stuff and this and that. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, go out there and pray to them UFOs again, and laughed about it. Whatever. Next day comes, I go outside. I see that light hovering. So I'm like, oh, it's out there again. Oh, I'm going to go out there and pray to it. So I went out there, put my hands together in the middle of the yard. And I said, thank you for everything you have done for me. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my son that you just gave me. Thank you for my life. I prayed to the entity like people would pray to God. And that's what I tried to do. And I said, we're going through some hard times right now, and we really could use some money. If there's any way you could help us. I said, I love you. Thank you for everything you do. Walked in the house. Next day, went to the store to get milk and pop and cigarettes and got a scratch off ticket. Scratch that ticket. $100,000 winner. I was like, oh my God. Couldn't believe it. We were shocked. Next morning, I went back to brag about the ticket, and the lady said, "What tickets did you buy?" She was ready to. The cashier was ready to get the tickets herself. I said, "Give me, you know what? Give me $20 of those tickets right there." So she knew those were the tickets. I got the $20. The first one was a $50,000 winner, and there was one free ticket in the other ones. And that was it. And I was like. So after that, I remained to pray to the spirit gods and the UFOs, the star gods, and it works.
All right, man. Well, we have a lot of questions here waiting for you. So if we can kind of keep these pretty clear and concise and get through that here. So first of all, main question is, what show were you on? You've mentioned it a couple times.
What do you mean? What show?
What TV show? You said you were on a TV show for 17 years or 16
Yes,
years?
I had a comedy show, and it was kind of like a Betty Hill kind of show where I played a clown, and there would be stars come on my show, and I would humiliate them with pies and you know, it's just a comedy funny show, rated R comedy show, kind of like Betty Hill. Been on B movie TV for about 17 years, man.
All right. The island that you talk about, can you tell us a little bit more where that was, what the island was? People are trying to find it on Google Earth.
Okay. So I'm not going to give off the exact location because I don't want to cause people to pop up on the chief there and start doing all that. It's Solomon Island, the main island. Okay. And then on the side over here is the main city of the island. We were about, I want to say, a quarter to halfway down. And I'll give everybody a clue. It starts with an R. If you do enough research on me, you'll find the town. But it starts with an R, and it's a little village. And it's right butted up to the ocean. So you can't miss it if you follow around the island, and maybe on Google Earth, and you'll see the R name and go from there. So you'll figure it out.
Okay.
I just make it a little bit so they got to research a little bit.
So you still have all the photos from this island of the skulls and everything like that? Have you released any of those photos or videos or anywhere that
no, we are going to release them in the documentary movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So in the documentary movie, we're going to have like Darrell speak for a minute and tell who he is, what his experiences were. And, we're going to go through each guy like that. And when we do me, that's when that will be presented. So, yes.
Okay. Do you think that it might be beneficial to release some teasers of that as to, you have a GoFundMe for the project out. The link is in the show notes of this episode for anybody that's interested. But have you released any kind of, stuff like that to get people more excited about it?
I release pictures that I have interactions with straight on, on my daily basis. So I release all those, orbs, creatures coming out of creatures standing there in the woods, Bigfoot holding an alien. I release all that. I just been kind of holding back on these pictures because I'm like, I thought about it a little bit, but then I thought, okay, we'll put them in the documentary so everybody's interested and wants to see the documentary. It's more for the documentary, and that's what our team decided at that point. So otherwise I would have. Trust me, I kind of want to, but then it's like, Ooh, and matter of fact, let me take that back. There is some Google Earth pictures of Solomon Island out there, quite a few that I on my Facebook area that I posted, and there are a couple of them that came off her cell phone that are out there. There's one that actually it's a giant, and you can see the side of him, and you can see the side of his face, his ear, his eyeball. You can make it all out perfect, and he's holding a 24-foot giant in his hand that is a female. And you can see that it's a female because you can see the breast, and that's how clear the detail is. So, yeah, so there's a couple out there, but the rest will be released on the documentary.
Rowan Island? Or is that where we're looking? Lee Wandering?
I'm not going to say yes or no, but good work. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. So let's see. When you talked about these creatures, you're talking about well, hang on, we're going to back up here. We're talking about the pyramids here. Yeah. So when you say that they're pyramids, are you talking about more the stone pyramid structures, or are these earthen?
Let's say, how the regular pyramids are in Egypt?
Yes.
There is one pyramid that we located that is like that, but the rest of the pyramids aren't. They are more narrow. They're not wide like this on an angle. They're more like this. And they go.
What are they made of?
The highest one that we measured was about 240 feet.
What are they made of? Are they stone? Are they brick? Are they like the Egyptian ones? Or are they earthen? Or
one looks like it looks like it has squares, like the design on it. It's like they squared it, different squares coming down. Almost looks like it's bronze or a gold, and then silver, and then another color. The next one has hieroglyphics all over it, designs all throughout the whole pyramid. There's another one that you can see inside the pyramid, and you can see the levels inside the pyramid, and you can see a creature standing inside the pyramid. There's another one that has now these pyramids on the tip, they got a nice tip. And there's another one that has it's like everything's a pyramid on it, the sides, the back, but the front has these arms coming down like paws, and it's almost like it's a structure, like maybe they built something like, say for instance Egypt, how they have creatures built around the pyramids. So this pyramid is actually it's part of it is a creature of the arms in the front of the structure of it. It's amazing.
Kind of like the Sphinx, you mean?
Yes, it's amazing. Yes, amazing. And we will release a couple of those pictures before this document does come out. So everyone can, see. We ain't gonna release the location. But we will release a few of these pictures. And
you said that the pyramids were in the US though?
Yes, in the United States. And then let me take you back for a minute, Barney. On finding the island in the right area, and why I said that people could research, because I don't want to bring these people any harm that are there. And it is, the chief did tell me that it is forbidden talk. And that the police there on that island are kind of like a military kind of police, and they'll kill you. And so I don't want to cause any harm to these people whatsoever. They were good people, good-hearted people. I know if you go there that they will be that way with you, as long as you're open with them and good-hearted. And it's more or less, they're telling the truth. And a lot of them want to talk. They want to talk. It's like,
I don't think that people are planning on going there, actually, as far as just like you said, going.
But if they did, and you know how when you have an encounter, you want to talk about it, you want to get it out. You can't believe what I just seen. You want to tell people. That's how these people are. They want to tell people, and they want to tell you what's going on there, and they live with it every day, so it's not a big deal. To where us, it's like, you got to do what? You got to do what? You got to watch out for these creatures all night. Oh my God. To where we more or less, because we don't live with it. They live
Well,
it.
that's any tribal country or anything. You have animals all over the jungle and stuff.
Yeah,
very amazing. So going back to the pyramids, what sort of creatures? You said they are Bigfoot types, or they are not Bigfoot types. What exactly describe the creatures that you're seeing? Are they walking around the pyramids? Are they interacting? Are they crawling on them?
I'm starting to believe that a lot of these interdimensional creatures, these beings, either they know that these other beings that look different are the same interdimensional being. They're an interdimensional being. I have a lot of photos with 5 and 6 creatures all standing around each other. That
but describe the creatures. What are you talking about?
Like I have photos of creatures that are standing together, and there will be a creature that people call the rake, and there will be a dog man, and there will be a Bigfoot, and there will be some big giant turtle looking creature, all standing together, and they're not fighting. And I got pictures of creatures fighting. I got dogmen fighting each other, 2 dogmen even. I almost think that these creatures probably know where they come from, or they respect each other, because some of them do get along with each other, because obviously they're in a lot of photos together. And I'll start posting a lot of these photos out there for everybody to check out. So
yeah, I think that would go a long way as far as like just, I mean, I'm not here to poke holes in your story or anything. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. And, for all I know, there's a giant skull on this island. I personally have heard stories of the Solomon Islands and all kinds of weird stuff going on out there. But I think that if you want to get this documentary off the ground, you're going to have to start releasing some things as proof to say that this stuff is legitimate and what you're talking about, and start showing those facts. So I think that's what a lot of people in the comments are saying too. And
yes, we are going to do that. Yes, we are.
We want to see this. And I mean, if you got the evidence that you claim you got and all this stuff, that's huge. It really is huge. And I would definitely think that everyone that is listening, watching, and everything should go out and check out the documentary. Yes. But I think that they're very leery of, I mean, just the extraordinary stories. I mean, fascinating story that you told today. Yes. And it just needs some photographic backing to prove it and stuff. And I think if you have those photos and you claim you do.
Yes, I do release a lot of photos on my Facebook, and if you go on there, you can see, and I do show videos where I show the invisible creature, and I show how you move I show how to see them, so that way people can learn how to see these creatures. My point is for some reason, this is what I feel. And I know it might sound weird, but I feel that they're channeling through me. And I've had shows with psychics that tell me the same thing. And they're channeling through me, and they're trying to make me explain to people and show people that they exist, and we have to accept this. And if we don't, there will be a problem. And the problem is fear. And I want to tell everybody that fear turns things on to a different level. And so whatever you do, if you're a Bigfoot researcher or have any interactions, and people out there I know that are listening to me know that I'm on the money with this. You have to not fear. You have to not fear. I know something that looks crazy and scary as can be will bring fear, because it's like, what is that? But you have to not. And that's how I deal with love with it. I just think, oh, I love you. And then I'm like, what? And it works. It's weird. Very weird.
I think you're onto something. I mean, as far as like, there's been a lot of stuff that certain entities and things like this do show themselves to individuals for the purpose of getting that information out. And
it's weird.
Very well could be part of that. And that could be why things are showing themselves to you more than other people. It's just a matter of getting that evidence out to the public.
I have probably like 2,000, a little over 2,000 photos that I've been wanting to release, but Darrell has told me, hold up on that. He's like, because we don't want to cause a bunch of scene, people
So
tripping and looking at that. We don't want to cause people to certain areas. And I'm like, and I'm just to the point where I got to get it out of there, because that's what they're giving it to me for, is to get it out. And I have to get it out. So
Darrell Denton and Martin Groves and Ron Morehead have all seen these photographs and stuff already?
Darrell's seen quite a few behind the scene. Yes. I've sent him lots of them through Messenger. And so he gets to see, and then he's like, don't release that. Don't release that right now. And I'm like, okay. He's like, we don't want to cause a scene to that certain area. I have a lot of creatures from the area we're going in, and he's like, don't post those, because, we don't want to cause a scene to the area. And he's right. And because he's like, military might be there when we come there. They might be watching out for us to come there. So before we even do our documentary, we're all going to go dark. So if everybody sees us all go dark for a little bit, that something's going on. Don't worry about us and all that, but we're trying to be the sneakiest as possible, and smart about it, and not have nobody stop us. And that's what we got to do to show everybody and prove to everybody that this is going on. We don't want no trouble, no stopping, nobody else in the area that we're going, no military there to meet us. We know that they watched this area we're going in. We know that. We found cameras in the location, on the sides of the road. We found the park it's involved, pulled over, talking to the creatures. So we know that they know they're there. We know it.
All right. Well, if people want to see these pictures, want to see your YouTube and stuff like that, tell everybody where they can find that. And the GoFundMe is in the show notes as well. So
right. And you're in Wisconsin, aren't you, my friend?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. See, so I know a couple locations in Wisconsin. I would love to take you, man. Bring your camera when you get some time. Make a plan to come up, towards Hayward, and bring your camera, and me and you will go out. I got a hot spot where tracks are all over. I got a man that my brother-in-law is tight with, and he claims that you cannot even spend the night on his property, that these creatures will scare you off the property. So I really want to go there, but I don't want to go alone. And I want to take some. I've been there and seen the tracks and hear the noise. Real wicked. I've got some photos of up there. Some of them have horns coming out of their heads. It's pretty wicked, man. So yeah, definitely me and you need to get together and do that, since you're in Wisconsin. You can find me at Ethan Oates on Facebook. And you can also, I have a group room on there called Discovering the Unknown, and where I do interviews and, with people that have interactions, and I share a lot of my content on that YouTube and a lot of my photos. Matter of fact, if you go to the YouTube, it's called Discovering the Unknowns with an S. And if you go in my shorts area, you got photos, shorts, videos. You go in the shorts area, that's where I take these photos and I put them into little videos for people to watch so they can see the creatures. I have probably about 70, 60 different creatures on there like that. Very good picture, clear pictures. Those are pictures that I have taken, and you can see the creatures, man. It's amazing. Aliens, all kinds of different ones. Yes.
Sounds good, man. Well, I think everybody in the comments is going to go check that out and see some of that stuff for themselves. So I appreciate your time today. And
I appreciate you.
Absolutely. You take care, man.
You too, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, that is our show for today. So if you guys remember to like, subscribe, and share all things here on the Untold Radio Network. All the links are in the show notes for all of Ethan Oates' stuff. Go check it out and see what you can find on there. With that being said, we will be back here live next week on the Untold Radio Network on Monsters on the Edge. And until then, I'll see you on the edge. Take care. Have a safe week. Stay warm if you're in Wisconsin.